Good evening, friends,
Good evening.
and welcome to my humble final abode. My name is Charles Thomas Kerner Sr., but my friends call me Buck. Oh hell, and my enemies did too. Now you might have heard of me. I made the newspapers. A lot. I was born the seventh child of Charles Frederick and Teresa Feth Kerner in 1887, and I was one of a long line of Kerners who helped shape Gretna at the turn of the last century. When my siblings and I were growing up, Gretna was still sort of kind of like the Wild West, or in our case, the Wild West Bank. Gretna Police Department was newly formed, and some of their practices were a little dodgy. We of the Kerner clan took note of this fluid state of law enforcement, and we decided to take the opportunity to exert our influence on how things should be run in Gretna. So we were often at odds with the law. I first got on Sheriff Marrero's radar in 1902 when I was just 15 years old. Some friends of mine were doing a little target practice with my .22 caliber rifle when one of them, Brizella Briscoe, asked for a turn. He took aim across the railroad tracks at a bird. But when the bird cried out in pain, turns out he had shot a McDonaldville boy in the head instead. Now Brazilla hands the rifle back to me and hightails it for home, leaving me to face the posse. Now, he later confessed to the shooting, but my tumultuous history with the law had begun. In the next 12 years, I grew up. I married Mabel Lamley. We had our first child, Edna Mae. But it seems like the Gretna courthouse was my second home. My cousin Tucker, my brother Henry, and I were in the entertainment business, running dance halls and saloons and dabbling a little bit in gambling. And the Gretna police were forever trying to lock us up. They put Cousin Tucker on trial for gaming violations when one of the sheriff's minions complained of slot machine irregularities at one of his saloons. Well, as I and the others testified, Cousin Tucker didn't even have a slot machine in his bar. And since none was ever found, they had to let him go. Then I had a dust up with a Mr. William Muntz, who complained that Tucker Henry and I were in a group of entrepreneurs who were involved in illegal lotteries and dice games. Can you imagine that? Well, in 1914, Gretna police apparently decided on a more permanent solution to deal with me. May 17th, night of May 17th, I was standing in the doorway of one of my saloons when someone with assassination on his mind shot me in the neck. Bullet entered just below my left ear, exited below my right ear, smacked through my door, and landed in my icebox. Now, I can't vouch for the aftermath. Bleeding and fighting for my life had me somewhat indisposed. But Cousin Tucker later told me, right before the shooting, he had escorted out Police Chief Lesson, Mr. William Spees, and Special Officer George Earl Peaback, also known as Doc. Right after the shooting, Tucker looks out the window and sees old Doc Peaback hiding behind a telegraph pole. and he hears William Spees yell to him, "Hey, Doc, everything's over. Let's go home." Well, while I was in Truro, where according to the press, I was on my deathbed, my kinfolk were busy pressing charges against a lot of them. Chief Lesson proclaimed ignorance, and he provided 5 witnesses who alibied Doc Peebeck at the time of the shooting. And he had the audacity to suggest that I had been shot in revenge for insulting a female relative. Well, I never. Well, after a short investigation, the deputy sheriff pressed charges against all 3 lawmen for shooting with intent to murder. Despite these warrants being issued, no one was ever arrested, and my assailant was never found. But 3 months later, justice came calling on good old Doc Peebeck, at least as far as I'm concerned. Cousin Tucker had received a threatening letter from Doc, and believing that he had shot me, was going to do the same to him. So as Doc stepped off the Ainsville streetcar at Copernicus and Ford, Tucker pumped 5 slugs into him. The prosecution thought they had an open and shut case. But after 61 hours of deliberation, the jury ruled self-defense and found him not guilty. Meanwhile, I was in Truro, recovering from my wounds, and there were rumors of my imminent demise and complete paralysis. But after a series of operations, I returned to health. The only remnant of that assassination attempt is a little stiffness in my arm. But if that bullet had entered 1 centimeter to the right, I would have died in my mid-20s, and my other 4 children would have never been born. And there's something I need to say. No matter what you may have heard about me, I love my children very much, and I contributed substantial money to various charities throughout the Gretna area, including the 3rd bell at St. Joseph's Church, which is engraved with my and my children's names. 3 years later, Tucker and I bought the old Southport Inn, a gaming den over on Oak Street. And with that purchase, we were able to expand our operations to gaming, liquor, lottery, and keno. And with the help of a gentleman's agreement with Carlos Marcelo, you know, the "you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone" type of agreement, I was able to further invest in real estate and the oil business. One of my real estate investments is my gorgeous mansion, which is not far from here on Amelia and 10th Street. You might know it as the old Lights Even Funeral. In 1932, I narrowly escaped being shot again by my cousin, Sidney Whiteside Jr., when him and some friends of his tried to rob Southport. But Lady Luck was with me, and I survived till the ripe old age of 61, where I passed away at Truro Infirmary in December of 1947. And I ended up here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. It has been my pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charles Kerner is portrayed by Mr. Scott Amaker, and this is his debut with the Cemetery Tour. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful.